Well, we get going. Oh. This is the Planning and Development Committee meeting at 12 o'clock on May the 25th, 2022. Approval of the agenda. Recommendation that the Planning and Development Committee meeting agenda for May 25th, 2020 as stated. Yeah. Good. Good. Rule of the minutes recommendation that the minutes of the Planning and Development Committee meeting held on May 11th, 2022 be adopted. Gord, Brian, all in favor, carried. Development services update, Scott.
We have the current applications. A couple of ones that are in bold will be considered today or at the next meeting. Couple of we just received at the bottom. Yeah, willing to answer any questions. I did follow up with Norton Court, Coach Road, and both of them, they're going to get back to me. They want to move forward. They're not sure what they want to do. Coach Road, we're still waiting for the province on that one. That's the riparian areas regulation issue. So
I have had an update on that one if you want. So we've heard from Jamie Letham, who's providing support to QEPs in our area on doing condition and impact assessments. One has been done, and Jamie Letham is now in conversation with the QEP. Should hopefully be seeing something come forward.
Okay.
Has anything changed with what the QEPs are going to be looking at, or?
A little bit. There's some upcoming additional changes to the regulation, the riparian areas protection regulation, that will build in clearer process for dealing with sites that were previously disturbed, which is common. Like most of our sites along the lake are previously disturbed. So there's more clear information around these condition and impact assessments and what needs to be in them. It's coming. And that's basically what they're operating under ahead of time. It's kind of deferring to their best practice guidelines. Their professional, the College of Biology. Yeah, at the moment.
So are they waiting to adopt these new rules, or are they holding?
No, it's
up, or that what rule are they working to?
it's not pending on adoption of that. I think it's just a matter of the QEP is pretty busy with other sites. And that's really all that's holding this up. Because like I said, I've already talked to Jamie Letham weeks now. So it's a matter of, I could probably just connect with the current QEP and we'll probably moving again.
Okay, all right. Any other comments on anything? No. All right. I guess then a special guest has just arrived. He's under building permit. Sycamore Household, Mr. Lockie Drake.
have asked for an update on building permits, the last meeting.
Oh, sorry.
So I do have just on the screen, those are the building permits. We've had 39 building applications this year, and this was probably of last week. Just looking at the total days and the average, so 39 applications, average of 23 days from to the time it's issued. I think that's high. So I tried to remove the applications that haven't been issued, because then, you know, we can kind of cut it off. And then it's still 24 days, which actually goes up by a day. And I removed the ones that had DVPs involved. And so there's 3 of them that DVPs, and that brought it down to 21 days. So that's the average time. I still think that's high for 21 days from the time you apply to the time you receive your permit. Phaedra and I have been looking at the program we use, City Reporter. So we now have a portal, so you can apply online for a building permit. So that should help some people, but also we noticed that not all the comments were kind of getting out of the program and going to the people who have made applications. So we think we've fixed that, so hopefully you can bring that down. There's 7 more that are over 21 days that I want to have a closer look at. And those are ones that, you know, that haven't required a variance or don't have issues that I've noticed. So I'll have a look at those additional 7 applications. But yeah, if this committee wants to challenge us to a time frame of returning a brick building permit, we'll see if we can meet that. 21 days is where we are now. So what do you think would be acceptable?
Well, what would you hope?
I would think 2 weeks. Like a building permit, you should be able to turn around in 2 weeks, 14 days.
Where an application is complete, though.
Where an application is complete.
Things sit there forever waiting for people to actually submit things they need.
That never happened.
Maybe not to you.
So in the application process, I always hear the word complete. So why do we get a number of them that don't work? Is it lack of knowledge on the person making the application, or they didn't get the information, or?
Typically, it's, you know, there's certain things we need. So a title, a completed application, an agent authorization form, and then it's called the Appendix B, which is the person signing saying they've read everything. Like usually those are the 4 things that Phaedra looks at before she sends it on to us. So then when I get it, I look for truss drawings, look for a foundation drawing, and then I look for a site plan that shows all the setbacks. And sometimes those aren't there. So then I'm asking for those things. So once those things are all there, go on to the building inspector, and then he's looking at, does the truss and the foundation meet building code, and do all the other drawings between the trusses and foundation meet building code. Often there's drawings missing, sometimes they need a stamp that's not there. Most of them, you know, you probably get it turned around pretty quick, but yeah, some of them, they don't have stamped drawings, so it takes a while for them to find the right person to stamp the drawings, or to pay the fee for the drawing they bought, stamp on it. Yeah, any number of things, but yeah, there's kind of the administrative, kind of the planning, and then the building side of it.
So I'm not sure if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, it was discussed that staff was going to create a 1-pager kind of help with that. Is that still in the works, or no, you're throwing that by the bathwater?
Yeah, for building permits, we could do that. We do have like a checklist we give, I mean, and usually that's, you know, the back 3 pages, which are probably torn off and thrown in the garbage, right?
It's hard to have it on our website, the checklist. Go ahead, Brian first, then Deb, then Evan,
Just one
then
little thing,
both Gord, then Evan.
No, that's fine.
just one little thing with it. It's not, I think the big thing with somebody that's coming in that's never filled out a building permit before, the fear, and I've dealt with this before, is they're filling in too much. Because they see the whole permit. So they're trying to get too much information that they're building a garage or a deck or something. And they just, there's only so much they need for certain things. If they're building a commercial building, $5 million commercial building, they're gonna need their architect, their mechanical engineering, and all this kind of stuff. It's all in there. It's sort of, the application allows for a bunch of different things. So I think that is the thing that is confusing for people to come in. Like, you know, as somebody that's built a lot of houses, they're going to be able to know, oh yeah, we can just go through and do that. But somebody that doesn't know, and they're the people I think we should worry about, is the citizen that comes in and wants to build a garage or something, and they're looking at this thing saying, okay, do I need this, or do I need an architect, or do I need a geotech for everything? And that's a thing that definitely happens, that people get all, you know, frazzled, and then, you know, somebody, that could be a thing that you could say, look, you're just doing this, so here's a highlighted areas that have to be done. And then the other thing is with building permits, one of the things that holds up a builder is that just for instance, a structural engineer will not issue a Schedule B without doing the design now. That's a thing that through BC, the engineers have got together and said, okay, this is what we need to design the house. Years ago, they would issue a Schedule B, so you would be fine to issue the permit because you've got a Schedule B saying that engineer is going to take responsibility for that house. And now they're saying, no, we need to do the work and do all the calculations, and then we'll get the Schedule B. So that's a little bit of a reason why it's taking longer but I think a lot of builders are going to say, well, can you take in the application and start the plans examination process while we're getting those things, which I think you do. And I think 2 weeks is really good compared to other municipalities. Like, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. So
Go ahead,
Yeah, kind of another angle on what Brian's saying, but in terms of, just reviewing process improvements and whatever, like Phaedra's a smart girl, like, so you were saying that she would pass stuff on to you and then you would see that drawings were missing. Like, isn't that something she could check for? I know she may not be able to actually, review the drawings, but, like, it seems like Brian's saying certain applications would only require certain things. She would know that, yeah, this is good, this is complete, this is good, this is complete. And then, because I'm assuming that you're kind of a busy guy and, the less kind of process stuff you're dealing with, the better, but.
So by the time Phaedra receives it and deems it complete and passes it on to me and I deem it complete, it does take some time, and Steffi and Sarah do that as well. It's usually one day for us to, like, we can, it's not one application takes a whole day. It's within, 45 minutes, we can probably figure out what we need. And I would say, I'm comfortable with having it come upstairs and us doing that from the planning side of things.
Gordon.
Does everyone want to go first?
Go ahead, Gordon.
Okay, thanks, through the chair. I had a couple ones, Scott. Do you think maybe a little more training with Phaedra to help more? I know she works almost fully for the planning department, but she does answer phones and stuff like that too. But a little more training on her end and bring her along a little bit more. Would that help you guys out at all?
I would say that's probably not part of the long-term plans for the organization. So we are looking to hire a building official or a building official in training. We're probably going to be doing interviews in the next couple of weeks.
Good.
And that person would probably take some of that work away from Phaedra and do some of that initial stuff and actually get it through the process a little more. So that's the long-term plan.
Okay, no, that's good. I also had a couple other ones, just, when we have a builder that's been in the community for, like you say, Bayview or somebody come in, are you a little bit more lenient on decks or, drawings and stuff like that with a builder that's been in the community forever than somebody new coming in, or is it just everybody's got to be the same?
I think everybody's the same. I think probably, we'll say regular customers, repeat clients, whatever. Probably we have them trained pretty well that they're getting us everything right off the bat. And, it's mom and pop who need a drawing for a deck that, like I say, if I was going to build my own deck, which I've tried to do and it was a disaster, I ended up hiring somebody to do it for me. But, you draw it out, right? And you figure out the budget and the lumber you need and have it all set up. And really, if you had a drawing like that with, indicating, hey, this is a 2x4, 36 of them across in this direction, that's probably enough. It's when you get a drawing where it's no dimensions, when you get a drawing and they're not showing you how they're going to fasten it to the house, right? Like, I think most builders are doing that when they're budgeting and doing quotes anyway, so they have it ready to go, but it's mom and pop type builders who require a little more work.
Yeah. Okay, no, good work. I'm glad to hear. Bring on like a level one kind of thing. Are you thinking level one inspector?
Yeah, if we'd be very lucky to get a level one, but yeah, hoping to someone qualified to work as a level one.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Evan.
Well, I'm not going to take long. We only got a couple minutes. So through the chair, this issue plagues every municipality in British Columbia, Alberta, every province in Canada on what is considered the red tape, the bureaucratic process. Staff are not trying to stall any permits. And I've said this since I've been here, okay? When an application comes in incomplete, it puts staff at a disadvantage. And the best way and the best methods I've seen over the years is invite builders or invite people new to the development business to have a pre-application meeting with staff. Just come in. We also have this forum here, which is working well. You know, come before the planning committee. Yeah, I have an idea. I own 23 acres. I'm not sure how it's zoned. I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm looking at redeveloping it. You have some ideas and have that pre-application discussion around the table and then start putting together a checklist of all the things that you have to do, whether it's subdivision, rezoning, a building permit, a DPA, a variance, etc. But just to come in and fill out a form incomplete really puts the staff at a disadvantage because it's the staff that have to notify the applicant it's incomplete and we can't issue you a permit. And that leads to other issues that evolve. And so trying to make the best of going forward, I invite the business community to use this body here that was struck by council to basically fast track things, have a pre-application meeting, and then when it comes to apply, there are no surprises. Okay, and so when I see that staff have to reject something because it's incomplete, it's hard for us to process that application. We want the application to go through, trust me. Development, good development as per the bylaws encourages asset wealth and infrastructure wealth, the entire community.
Okay, Sarah.
I just wanted to add that in addition to say pre-application meetings, we do have folks send us in a soft application, like over email, like we'll talk over the phone, we'll have a look. It's like, send me your drawings, let me have a look. And I'll let you know, like, if you need variances or anything yet, or if you're missing anything. So I've often had like soft applications before they actually submit, just so that they know they've got most of what they need.
So just to revert back to the hiring, we at the last committee meeting discussed the idea of timelines for getting inspections. So the person that you're looking at hiring is going to place Dale or work with Dale, or because Dale was supposed to have someone that was going to be in training with him. I thought that was the initial contract, so to speak.
So Dale it's a company that he
Yeah.
he manages, runs, he's the face of it, he's the one who signs off and everything. I understand he did have a young man that was a building official in training. And I think he was doing some of the work, but I think that's Dale's employee, right? So they're not available for us outside of the contract. So our goal is, to be a building official in training. Once they've completed a certain level of education, they'll be able to start working as a level 1 building inspector. We'll always need Dale for level 2 and level 3. But, as the years go on, if this person we hire works out, maybe they'll build up to the level 2 and level 3. And Dale has agreed to mentor the person and work with them on their education plan. So we're going to still have a relationship with Dale and his company, but the goal is, to get someone in the office full time. And then the other half of the job would be a carpenter for the district. So, if there is something that needs someone to swing a hammer and do a little bit of work, it's not coming out of Daryl's crew. It'll be coming out of this building official in training / carpenter, we'll call it.
No, that's good. Like I said, it's a requirement because of some holdups on the basis of inspection. So get that covered off. it's good, but you know how I am so enthused about more people, so. Do you have a comment, sir? No. Any other comments on this?
Just one more, Scott, can we get a copy of that? Would that,
Yep, sure.
that'd be great. Thank you.
That's basically, can you add that in as part of the page 2 and 3 on the, like you've got the ones completed and the dates completed. Maybe that one would be nice previous to that,
Yeah.
after the,
So on the monthly updates on council, you see the applications as they're issued.
Yeah.
So,
but we're not seeing the timeline, which is good because we hear it as councillors, how long it takes the district to issue a permit.
Yeah.
Trust me,
yeah, we can get that too.
21 days, the CSRD, they're talking 6 months now.
We're not the CSRD.
I know, but so they're all, so if you're in 21-day range already, then
Yeah, you're right.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good. All right, so now, without further ado, we'll go to new business. 5A, Caboose Houseboats. Keith Craig.
Thank you for having us, by the way. We've been working to line this up with Scott, and I'm pleased that the development committee would be prepared to talk to us. The general purpose of our meeting is to give council an update and make sure that you understand what our long-term vision is, and then we're looking for some advice and directions. That's the purpose of our wanting to come before this committee. So appreciate that. As an overview, everyone knows we own the marina at 2 Mile Point, and we operate Sycamoose houseboats there.
You feel like a professor?
I might need it, yeah, sure. Our goal and one of the purposes when we acquired 2.5 years ago now was to also build a campground. And we have talked at length with doing a campground as a joint venture with the district of Sycamoose. We've been working towards that. Just to give a few updates before we jump into this map. In 2019 December, or 2020 in December, we applied to extend our marina applications and extend our marina. We have made an application to extend the marina to approximately 280 slips. And our applications went in. That application was previously submitted by Waterways Houseboats 8-9 years ago, and it was accepted. So we believe it will be accepted, submitted approximately 1.5 years ago, and have not received any feedback from the province of British Columbia. Our consultant, Daryl Arsenal from Kelowna, has contacted Front Counter 3 or 4 times, has had a few responses, and the responses are, we're overwhelmed right now. So nothing has happened. We have had 0 feedback. I have communicated a few times with the section head, Jason Ladyman, since our applications have gone in, and Jason has just confirmed to me the same thing, that Front Counter is overwhelmed and they're not able to respond. He gave me a timeline prior to our applications that he thought we would be able to start our expansion and have our permits in place for this spring, which is now officially passed in my mind with the May long weekend. So no response. We believe we will get a favorable response. Our consultant there, Arsenal, thinks we will as well. We also have the issue of the emulsion to deal with, which I'll get to on the map. And we are working, Jason Ladyman and I are in contact on that. We believe we will resolve the issue by us coming to a settlement, which will involve us paying them some money and we will own the emulsion. The long-term plan for this site is to continue to run our houseboat operation, but also to clean it up and run a successful marina that goes beyond houseboat, marina slips, and also to run our campground RV park. One of the problems we identified early is that the houseboating operations overwhelmed the site, and it looks a little bit like an industrial park, and we're trying to add amenities for both campground, campsite users, and also the houseboat users. One of the problems right now, this is the plan created by Victor Cumming with us of what we would like to see in the future. Currently, this area, which is the main beach area, has a number of portable, either sea cans or portable trailers that are for operations for the houseboat. And we want to move all of those up to beside the sideway, clean this out, and actually make a beach amenity area with a food service concession site. I doubt it will be round as drawn on the picture because that's hard to build, but that is the plan. We also then, right here, actually conceptually has some RV campsites to be used in the short term and medium term. And that's our interim concept. And we want to try and move towards that. Up the hill is the campground site, and there's 2 or 3 phases to that. And I wanted to talk about our challenges. That's not the right one, but
Can we ask a couple of questions?
sure, please do. And that's,
One,
Go back.
oh, yeah.
Nobody's listening, so you can just tell
no, I don't know who's running that thing.
I don't even have to touch. Doesn't,
Are they in the room? Good.
One more click.
No, that's the one I wanted.
aside from here.
Okay, go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
So there was an issue with the highway dock
Yes.
and ownership or not ownership because of the accretion of land. So have you gained that?
We are in discussions with Mr. Ladyman, and we believe that we will have a deal finalized in the near future. And it will involve us paying compensation to the province of British Columbia, and the issue of who owns that avulsion will be resolved in that. Okay.
All right. And my second comment is that is a public boat launch.
Yes.
And when the flood happened in 2012 and the rebuild of the roads, they used to have lots of room on both sides for parking a truck and trailer. And it used to be that waterways would allow you to come into that property and turn around and back down. Now, from what it looks like you're gonna propose there, it'll be a very tight turnaround to turn around to back a boat down that launch.
So good question. Currently, we allow people that are using the marina to come and use our property to back down the ramp. There's no other way. Unless you back down the highway, you have to come onto our land to launch your boat. We've allowed that to happen, and likely will continue to allow that to happen. It will be reconfigured, and currently what people do, as I'm sure everyone knows, is they come into here and then back down, and that will still be available to them. I guess. And as you know, a number of the people that use that marina live down here, just.
It is, that was why I asked, because it is a public asset. So
Yes,
if there's no way to access it, then it's not much of a public access.
right, I understand that. So let me explain some of the challenges and some of the reasons we wanted to come here. Your process, when you go to subdivide, rezone, or in development permit situations, you trigger a site profile form, which ultimately takes you to the province and on the province. One of the problems for us right now, a significant problem, You could flip to the upper campsite, Scott, if possible. Going right here. Yeah. This is the upper site. I think most people know this is right up top. Above here is the dump. After significant environmental exploration, the site has lithium contents that are higher than is permitted by the province for safe use of the site. This is 30 feet below the surface of the land, and the concentration of lithium is very, very small. It is believed that the lithium comes from the dump and it is leaching down the hill. We have spent a lot of money with McElhaney, our environmental consultants. We have met with the Columbia Shuswap Regional District. Ben Van Nostrum, I believe, is the main guy that we've dealt with there. And we are stalemated right now. We're not moving forward. Had some meetings with Ben and his group. They wouldn't meet with us in person, but we had some Zoom meetings. Then we met with the province. We were originally met with some hostility. I believe we're past that now, but still not getting the cooperation. The problem is the province will not sign off until they're satisfied as to how the lithium is got there, or if it's naturally on the site, and we aren't getting the clearance from the province. They have given us some direction, which includes obtaining a bunch of information from the Columbia Shuswap Regional District, and involves information for their dump site. Ben has been willing to give to our consultants. He has his own consultants. But the province also wants more test wells done, and he's basically telling us he doesn't have budget for that. So kind of at a stalemate. We were hoping to have a campground functioning this summer. I'm not sure how we get through that, but I have some suggestions that I want to discuss with this committee on how we might be able to short-term and long-term accomplish what we're trying to do. Before we jump into those, the second issue on the provincial sign-off is the Department of Highways, Tara Knight. They actually have a restrictive covenant on this site that the District of Sicamous is not allowed to give us a building permit without their approval. We have agreed with them, and they have signed off, as has the District of Sicamous, with a modification to that covenant that occurred last year. And the modification says you can give us building permits as long as it's just in furtherance of the existing operations. So you can give us a permit to move our trailers if you thought we needed it or whatever, but you can't give us a permit to build washrooms and camp kitchens and check-in counters for a campground without it. We have been working towards getting their approval, and we believe they are not going to be our issue. It will be the environmental issue, and I'll tell you why. So we've engaged McElhaney, who's done a traffic study. We have a draft of it, and it is going to be issued within the next week. What that study says is if you put 50-some campsites up the hill, what do you have to do to make sure that the highway is safe? They have said you need to have a pedestrian crosswalk with lights. You know, until we get the official report, that's the unofficial what they're going to tell us, but I can tell you That's what they verbally told us, and that's likely going to happen. So we're prepared to do that. We will like to work with your administration to see if there's any grants available to us, but probably prepared to pay for that even if we can't get grants. And that would be McElhaney's requirements to say we think it's safe to add further density up the hill towards the dump on the traffic. So the two issues of the Department of Highways, we believe we will resolve. The environmental people, we believe is going to take some period of time, and they want more testing, more wells, and we have to have the cooperation of the Columbia Shuswap Regional District, or we can't move forward. It's that simple. Through your
Sorry, so how do you prove that you have to drill a test well right on the fence line of the CSRD's dump to actually prove? Because that's the first thing I'd do. I'd drill the hole that I would pay for right on their fence line. And then if that's contaminated, I'd go, it's your problem, you fix it, we'll sue you.
Yeah, so good point. Right now, with the permission of the previous landowner, the Columbia Shuswap Regional District has 2 test wells on our property.
That's right.
The province of British Columbia wants them to put 2 more, and then they want them to provide the province, which they have in another form anyway, all of the data from their 4 or 6, I can't remember, test wells on their own site. One of the test wells is supposed to track that. Want to make sure everyone understands the magnitude of the problem. The lithium content is 30 feet below the soil, and it could impact the groundwater. We have told the dump, CRCD, Ben Nostrom, we said, we're fine to coexist with the dump. We're not asking the dump to move, to clean up. It's 30 feet below our property. It will not impact the quality of our surface, and we have no intention of drilling water wells. We are going to be buying town water, which is right there and is certified in essence by the District of Sicamous as potable water. So we're not going to be drilling 30 feet down to try and extract water out of our site. And we're prepared to give a restrictive covenant that we will never do that. That still does not satisfy the province of British Columbia on their environmental sign-off. If we can get McElhaney or the dump or the CRCD consultants to say, yes, we believe leaching from the lithium is coming from upstream, which common sense tells you it is. I think they would sign off, but they're not right now. And again, you guys cannot allow us to subdivide until that sign off occurs. The only reason we can get around their sign off for rezoning to allow campground use is it's part of the general rezoning. And so we can get that, but I don't believe, and I'm happy to talk further to Scott about this. I don't believe you guys can issue us a development permit without that sign off as well. So that is a stalemate on us moving forward to provide much needed amenities, in my view, in this area, and good business opportunity for us and good for your community. So that's where we are. Any questions on that?
I was gonna ask Evan to,
The question I had, because we've also used McElhaney on 466, 462 Finlayson, where there was contamination, and in the report, it was an EA 1 and 2. In the report, there were several options how to mitigate the, what was the chemical again? What was the uranium? Wasn't it uranium? So my question is, in the McElhaney report, are there mitigating options presented to the province on how to deal with the lithium?
No.
Because I know that's what we were asked to provide moving forward on our bid to purchase those lands, is to show evidence on how to mitigate the small traces of uranium in the groundwater, and this sounds similar.
It was fuel.
Fuel, yeah, but there's also that issue with those uranium traces in addition to that fuel, the old fuel pump station. So if McElhaney doesn't have a solution on how to mitigate that, I'm sure that's what MOE is looking for, is further evidence on how to mitigate these small traces of lithium. I don't know.
I'm sure we common sense all know how to mitigate them, stop using the dump, but it's so
And it doesn't affect.
minor to, you know, and that's Ben's whole point, is I've been approved to continue to run my dump.
Right.
I don't want my approvals jeopardized because your guys are trying to build the campground down the hill.
But at the same time, the CSRD is restricting the use of land that's within the district of Sycamore by their contamination. And the point that I would go back at them as from the district possibly is that shit's running all the way down to the lake and our water intake is that part of it. So like, I know those test wells have been there for a long time.
Yes.
Long time. So they gotta have all the data someplace. And like I said, I have no idea where it's going after. It's like after those wells, it doesn't stop there. It's not like they build a test well and the lithium stops there. It's still going someplace. Like where is it going to? Right. But
I assume it's pretty obvious that there's leaching from that dump, it goes downhill to the lake.
Or the creek.
Or the creek, ultimately to the lake, whenever, however it makes its way there. I'm not here to solve world's problems, but I am completely stalemated in moving forward with a number of things, and I'm gonna talk about some potential workarounds, but.
or it has one question.
Yeah, sorry, Lockie. I think they're testing again today. All the wells today up there, right? When I came testing.
Yeah.
I think they test about 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
And that should be public document.
They've agreed to give that information to us and the province. I think they actually have to file it with the province.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I'm not qualified to say this, but I think their standards are so high, you know, sure, there's issues with having a dump anywhere, but it's never going to impact us. You know, I assume we could drill wells there and drink the water and be okay, but I'm not qualified to say that, but I'm not even gonna do that. So I will find out. So here's my problem. I would love to have a campground there sometime this year. It stops us from our next point, which will be a complication with these guys as well in the future, because the next phase involves us in the district on the Department of Highways lands, which touch these lands. There's a great walk-in campsite that we think the district or the Department of Highways will probably let us use for that purpose, and we're gonna build the infrastructure to pull it in there. Can't even get to there until we get this infrastructure built. So here's something, and you know, I want to make sure, and Scott wants to make sure council is fully aware of everything we're doing. We cannot move forward to build a number of infrastructure things needed in the long term for this campground. Cannot build the washrooms with the laundry facility, can't build in the check-in counter because technically you guys can't give us the permits we need. We can actually build those campsites because they can't stop you guys from issuing a water permit or a sewer hookup permit, which we actually have in place on that site already. Is that correct, Scott? I know we hooked in the sewer down below, but
You'd
I
still
believe
need,
we have our connect permit.
you'd still need a development permit for the sites themselves for this layout.
Yeah.
You'd still need a development permit, and contaminated sites freezes development permits, right?
I need a development permit for,
For the sites. So you couldn't technically put them in, so you might be able to have your services in, but you'd need a development permit for form and character of the site, right?
I totally agree with that. So I can't build my washroom without a development permit. I
Can't build the sites either. Sorry, I was just clarifying that point. The
You don't
sites
think you can
themselves.
build a site without a development.
Need a development permit, yeah.
And because, okay,
We'll see what we can do, but you do have water connections to
yeah,
the,
yeah, we actually have trailers out there too, but they're not true sites. But yes, I understand you need a development permit to technically do this, but can we put in the sites without the rest of the infrastructure in the interim? And that's really a question for you guys. Are you prepared to let us do that? There's also another problem, and I want to quickly point this out. You have not passed your final rezoning through, so we're not actually zoned. Have a campground there right now, and you don't need the Ministry of the Environment for the province of British Columbia to sign off on a general rezoning. I know your highways guys have held you up, but so we're not zoned properly, and you're right, we have a permit in place.
You two are whispering. Do you have something?
Go ahead,
with us?
I'm here on advice and directions, and I'd like to have an open conversation.
I just had a question from the last time we spoke to you. I think we're just trying to keep this from going on too long. I just remembered that you didn't realize how steep it was up there and that you were concerned about your actual buildable area because you would have to regrade the top to make room. This is what I remember from last time you came, and I was just wondering what the status was on that.
This has been engineered by Franklin Engineering, and each site will have a small rock terrace as you come down, but we're through the technical problems on that. You go up above, that's what our operation right now talks about the boneyard. That's actually right below the steep hill, but it's way up from there. So you can't go further than this for sure. There gets to be issues there, and you lose the aesthetics of a campground feel as you go up there. You're really then in the Department of Highways rock pit. So, and I have no idea the history of how that pit both pieces of land, but it was clearly was on this part of the land too. So.
Go ahead, Gord.
To the chair, Scott, is a development permit triggered at $50,000?
it's not, development cost charges maybe are.
Okay,
The development permit, it's essentially anything, any change to the land that includes moving earth. Or anything that leads to a building permit. So I don't know, we can figure out about building the campsites. I think that's kind of, with the hurdles in front of you, that's the lowest hurdle. I think we can figure something, I think we can figure something out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I completely understand it. To have a long-term really good campground, you have to have washrooms, even though, you know, assuming the first phase is all RVs and trailers, they all technically have washrooms and you have hookups for them, but even in those very high-end RV parks, they always have shower rooms and very nice ones for people to shower. They don't want to shower in their facility. The next phase where you put in actual tents, you can't go to the bathroom without having a bathroom up there. So you have to have building permit, you have to have a development permit before you have your building permits. You know, that's what ultimately leads you down to your building permits is once you've got your concept approved. So there are the issues that we're struggling with. We do not believe that we will be through the Department of Environment for a number of months. And our biggest hurdle right now is not them, it's trying to get the Shoetrock Regional District to work with us and give us the necessary information so McElhaney can go forward.
So you're asking the council, because it would only be a recommendation from this group to council.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it would have to go to council, maybe not, because Scott's the approving officer, so he can sign off on anything he wants, right? As long as he's not gonna lose his job, but
Well, I want to say one thing that Scott's made really clear to me, and good for him, is basically, we want to know what's going on that site. As we do on all of our, we want to know what you guys are doing, and you want to talk to us about what permits you need, building development, rezoning, come talk to us. I'm pretty familiar with the system, so I kind of know, like right now, I am not zoned that background there. Once your rezoning comes through, I will be zoned if what we've submitted is ultimately approved, which I understand it's in.
so Lockie, on this capped site for the RVs with the water and sewer, I think I'm hearing you ask if you could put that infrastructure in place while you're waiting for everything else to happen. That's the first comment. My question would be is, a long time ago, we had some of this conversation, you were talking about that, you could have, because right from there, they can go sled out the
Right.
back and up there. So are you actually gonna have the services deep enough for winter use as well?
Yes,
So then,
this is a 4-season planned campground, and I'd love to put in services deep enough, but that will be input from the district itself and from your economic corporation. I would like to spend the extra money to put your services in deep enough and have the washrooms functioning in the winter for a 4-season resort. Yeah.
and is our EDC, like, because I haven't heard, is there a partnership signed and sealed and delivered between?
There isn't yet. We need to ultimately now involve Terra Knight and make sure that the land is available to us, and then we will work on concept and pricing, and we will be working with that group to do that. Yeah.
And so then, Scott, you said if you move any dirt, you require a permit?
Right.
So like if I want to go out on my farm over there and knock down some trees and level out some dirt, I got to come in here and get a permit?
So if you're farming, you don't need anything from us. But if you're, say, if you had a property on the highway and you're flattening it, changing the grade of it, and whatever you're doing would lead to a building permit, you require a development permit. If you have anywhere a development permit is required, which is usually commercial, industrial, steep slopes, that type of thing. If you're changing the grade of land, so if you're flattening the land and making it so it's the water's going to run one direction or the other, you need a development permit. It's essentially.
Okay.
So right now for this property, there's a subdivision application that's a PLR is issued. PLR is pretty comprehensive. It has a list of everything that needs to occur in order to get to that subdivision. The other thing is we have a building permit application. Seemed really simple to move one of the units that's on the water back away from the water so you can start creating that beach area, that amenity area. I'd like to see a final plan for all that area on the water side on the Mervyn Road. So then we could issue that building permit for you to move that unit. I think if you can get me a drawing like this, and I'm sure I've seen that before.
Yeah.
And let me know what you actually want to do. We can see how we can get you there. I know we've issued plumbing permits for the issued the temporary use permit for the cover. Also, we are piecemealing it, but I'd like a full picture.
Yeah.
So then we could move towards a permit or maybe 2 permits for each side of the road or something, so that we could let you move forward and deal with some of the other hurdles.
Yeah. So we actually, as part of this package, and I actually have hard copies if anyone's interested, when I have 4 or 5 hard copies, we put together an entire concept plan for for all of the sites, and that's been emailed to you today. And I'm happy to officially submit that, although there's usually not a concept submission without a development permit or a rezoning permit or something like that. That is our long-term concept plan, and so this is all included in what we've submitted today. And I do believe that you can issue building permits if you feel necessary for us to move buildings. One of the questions that has come up from you, and it's part of the package, I've become quite familiar with the phrase SPIA, Stream Enhancement Protection Area. We have a consultant, again, Daryl Arsenal, who did our marina as well. He has drawn the SPIA on our site. It will be in this package if you want to try and flip through it. We're well aware of what the SPIA is, and we've talked at length a number of times to Daryl Arsenal. And so our drawings of where we want to move those buildings to create that beach area are outside of the SPIA. For sure. So, done that. And the SPIA is complicated on this site because not only are we on the lake, we're not that far from the creek. And the SPIA applies to the creek. Of course, the name SPIA is really stream, but so we have SPIA that almost surrounds our entire site down below. There's actually no SPIA on the campground site because it's of course across the road, and there's no SPIA as well on the across the road lower piece where we've actually run all of the utilities already. So we're well aware of what and you guys are required to only issue permits that comply with the SPIA requirements, and so we're well aware of that as well. So and we're happy to. I originally actually talked to Scott about maybe going to council. I would way rather be in front of this, if this is really what this committee is for, to say, here's what we're doing. We're looking for advice and directions and potentially support or help, whatever you can give the province. I don't think they listen to anyone, maybe not even God. I'm not sure.
So Lockie, you know, the district does do partnership deals, and that we become involved in the process, right? We've already done some stuff with the water and sewer.
Yeah.
Way out in front of having an actual agreement on what's going to be our partnership.
Yes.
So personally, this is not a council or this committee. Personally, I think that, you know, there has to be some more than just good faith on the idea that there's going to be something in the future. We, as a community, we need to either negotiate we're in or we're out. And that should happen relatively soon, because you're asking the community to actually support some of the stuff to move forward. And we can assist the private business. And at this point, we're not involved.
I understand that, and I'm anxious to do that as well. We feel these roadblocks have created a problem. The big issue on moving forward with that is going to be the Department of Highways, and we think we're going to solve those guys right away. And that then gets us in front of Tara Knight, and I will be relying on administration to help us. And then we can move forward with a potential partnership. Just talk about that a bit. One of the things that we think we're going to offer, which is going to be very significant for the district of Sicamous, is we're going to put in the majority of the infrastructure to get it to that phase of the campground at our cost, not the cost of the district of Sicamous. We think it will be a relatively inexpensive build. In accordance with my last before council, you know, there was a strong urging to make sure that you had campsites versus RV sites. These will all be campsites. And we think, and we know from the first time, the economics were not very good for you guys. We think the economics for that venture will be very, very good, because we're going to absorb a big chunk of the infrastructure comes.
Well, those are details to be,
Yeah,
I guess.
certainly, and we'll get into them, and I'm using Evan kind of as my point guy because he's part of the economic development guys, so.
Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, I'm putting my DevCorp hat on now, and the DevCorp is interested in sitting down and hearing about the potential partnership and reporting back to council. Maybe there's a role for us to play to jam this log jam with MOE, because it just seems, and I'm sure you would agree, Mr. Chair, that if the CSRD can operate a landfill and not exceed the provincial minimum guidelines of contamination, how come we can't operate a campground when it's the same contaminant? And that's why I'm interested in the McElhaney report, but maybe there's an opportunity for us as the DevCorp to work with MOE, we can come to a compromise here. You're familiar with the process, having gone through it extensively, the potential acquisition of Finlayson. Working with McElhaney, working within E1, E2, working with MOE. To your point, Lockie, yeah, the province, when it comes to section 11s and Flenro at front counter, 1.5 to 2 year wait, which is just incredible when I think about it. We're dealing with that all the time on private moorage applications, dealing with it on our own Finlayson boat launch proposal. And they just don't have the capacity, the horses right now to process applications, and waiting 2 years just seems to me unacceptable, quite frankly.
I'm not sure what you guys can do to help us. Any help is much appreciated. When you go back to the marina concept, we have crossed the bridge as a result of my last conversation with Jason Ladyman. He said, even though he's department chair, I can't help you. I'm thinking we're not doing anything this year because we're just not going to be able to do it. So we will be 2 years in December, and if we're 2 years, I can live with that now. I have no choice because that means I can go in then for 2023. But 2022 is already, they're already too big for sure. I've learned to live with them. The more complicated thing is I feel like we're innocent bystanders in a bigger issue of having landfills on the planet, which are needed, and how do you deal with the environmental impacts on those, and how it really we have not asked for anything. If we went to Ben Nostrom and said, hey, we want your dump moved, you're contaminating our site, I understand. I've declared war on them, and it's going to be World War III.
That's good. Do that. Go ahead.
I don't want to be the innocent guy in the middle of that fight.
So my comment would be to that end is, as the district of Sicamous and as that runoff, that's what we're going to call it, groundwater. It's not actually considered groundwater unless it's more than 50 feet, right? It's still considered surface water. So, but if it's going into the lake where our intake is our intake straight across from your boat launch.
I totally understand.
That's the way the water moves. So are we getting it in our water? And I don't even know if the district of Sicamous, when we send our samples, that we should specify to check for trace of that. Because when you get we got to get our water tested every month, I think. So you could specify to look for a certain contaminant. So, because if it's in the water, then the district of Sicamous might have a leg to stand on against CSRD and their landfill site.
Just my simple understanding is because the amounts are so small that are on our site, by the time they make it to the lake, they're probably so diluted that they're under provincial guidelines, which are very small in and of themselves. So
I don't know, I got radon gas at my place. Go ahead, you.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that, want to talk about the partnership or anything like that. I don't have enough on that. As far as the issue that you're talking about, I think campground, which is really needed in this community. I think we all agree with that. I think this is something that you can talk to anybody in this town and tell you that that is, you know, something that's really missed in the community. But it seems like this is, as far as a development on a site like this, that a campground would be the best thing to put there as far as limited infrastructure. Like you say, you're not dealing with something 30 feet down. You're putting the campsite, you're not doing some major development, you're digging in. So I don't, it's a very complicated thing that involves a lot more, but it just is anything that the district could do, I think it should try. And that's separate from any deals as far as partnerships. I just think it's good for the town and could help. We should.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I do want to say the district of Sycamoose has been fantastic to deal with, and not just council, the administration are good. I chuckled to myself your first conversation about building permits. You guys are very good at this. Trust me, you don't know what bad looks like. So compliments to you guys. You run a very good organization. So.
Well, thank you for that. Is anybody else got a comment, question, concern? What?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We're in constant contact with Scott and Evan, more Scott nowadays, and good to be working with Scott, and we'll talk about what we might be able to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give you the big pictures. For your old eyes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's disheartening, that. All right, so 5B 226 Copperstone. Who's leading this? Actually,
And step out.
and the reason you're stepping out is?
Conflict of interest.
Thank you, sir.
For lunch.
Maybe we thought you were going for lunch.
It didn't air smell really good.
Through the chair. Okay, so there is a resolution going along with this one to count, hoping for, okay, next slide. So here's the location of the property up in Bayview. It's in Copperstone Lane here. You can kind of see that this particular, on this side where the roads wind up, the lots kind of get awkward. Just in general. So you can see that the issue we're talking about today, moving on some of these lower ones as well, because they get really narrow. See the ones higher up, they're a lot deeper. There's a lot more room in terms of transitioning slope when you develop the site. Oh, thank you. I feel like a teacher. All right, next slide, Stephanie. So this area is designated residential low density under the official community plan, which of course supports the current zoning, which is CDZ 0201, which is hillside single family residential zone. So this is a zone specifically designed for steep slope areas. And of course supports a single family residential dwelling as a permitted use. So this is the proposed dwelling. This is the view from Copperstone Lane at the front of the property. This is the street view. Of course, the house drops down the back. So here's the side from the south side. So what we're here to talk about today is a variance for this covered entryway. This extension of the roof and some support pillars right here. Next slide. Here's a survey. I've cleaned it up a little to make it easier for you guys to read off the TV screen. So this whole gray area, that is to the roof overhang. And just under here, if you can see the line very faintly, that's the foundation. So here is the roof overhang for the covered entryway that requires a variance. So the whole front of this building from the foundation, which is where the setbacks are measured from for the most part, it's at 3.26. So this is allowed to be up to 3 meters from the front lot line. This here, however, this can only extend into that setback. I think it's no more than a meter. So regardless, it needs a variance. So we're varying the whole setback to 1.36 meters on this end. It's a request. So what the applicant has indicated as justification is the fact that this is steep slope property. This is the top slope right here. So you can kind of see it's more than half of the property is taken up by this. The lot is shallower than the lots that have already built out for the most part. And they're also constrained by the building scheme, which the owners have to comply with as far as form and character. So they're saying that if you have this, it's basically going to look like a trailer fronting on the road. We do have the applicant's agent here today, so if there's any questions, it's in the audience.
My first comment is that, you know, you can recess the front door more. And the overhang is allowed to be, I think it's 24 inches from like your foundations of the 3 meter setback, and then your overhang, your soffit that is 24 inches, right?
Yeah, the difficult thing with that, with this particular lot, is it is very narrow. The shortest part of this, the depth of this house is only 17.5 feet, and the widest is only 24.5 feet. So we can't push the house back anymore to do that. And if we just sort of cut that overhang off, it will just sort of have the look of a really long double wide trailer. Based on what our engineer has given us for where our pads have to sit on the lot, we can't move that any further back towards the slope without compromising our footings. So that's the reason why we're asking for the variance today. It's just that if it was another lot up in Bayview, we would sort of be able to adjust the house or shrink it down a little bit and not lose too much space. But with a house this size and a lot this size, it's very difficult for us to do that.
But Gordon?
To the chair, yeah, I went up and had a peek at the lot, and I'm familiar with Bayview because I walk up there all the time, but it is a very narrow build site. And I mean, the lot is fairly big, you know, it's a very
Yeah,
big
very,
lot.
very
It looks really big, but it's mostly cliff. So I know Bayview doesn't usually come in for variances at Bayview Estates as much as other builders do. So I support it. You know, if you look at 17 feet, I mean, most bedrooms are 17 feet. So it's not going to look bad. It's next to Brett Joyce's old place, and it'll fit in. It'll look good on that site, being so narrow. That's my opinion.
I'm, for everything that's been said already, you know, like that's very narrow. To talk about recessing into that kind of, I think, really screws the house up. And to not have something that gives you some kind of architectural look outside, I think, you know, like that's going to impact the other homes too, right? So.
There was, looking for the,
As much as I love trailers, I think that's the look you're looking for up there.
I'm looking for within our package, the one that showed yeah, like I said, I don't have an issue with it. It's just that the lot exists, right? And I think that in the future, whenever somebody comes in for subdivision service and application, that they should be making sure, the staff should be making sure that the lots are of a size that accommodates a proper build of a house. So So yeah, so if there's no opposition to it, I guess let's you're asking for the recommendations. So the recommendation that the Planning Development Committee recommended the District of Sycamore authorize and issue a development permit variance number 22-069-DVP to vary Sycamore zoning bylaw number 101/1993. I wish that said 2002, but it doesn't. CDZ 0.022D to reduce the front setback of a covered entry for single family dwelling for lot 20, district lot 496, section 30, township 21, range 7, west of the 6th Meridian Kamloops Division, Yale District Plan EPP 133. That's a long one. You're moving. Second. All in favor? Carry.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
You want to send Brian back in, please? C 22-108 DVP 125 883 Silver Sands Road. Who's doing this? Kathy, go ahead.
So this is a development variance permit for lot 125, 1383 Silver Sands Road. And this is the ortho image for the subject property. Previously in 2021, a development variance permit was approved for the interior lot set line, place a shed, like an accessory building. The property is designated as residential waterfront medium density according to the OCP bylaw, and it is zoned as RSVP 1 according to zoning bylaw. In this particular application, the applicant is requesting to vary section 901(11)(b)(4 of the zoning bylaw, which is to vary the exterior side setback from 3 meter to 1.9 meter. In order to add 120 square feet addition to the rear of the existing park model. So right now, the existing park model is certified, but any custom-made addition would require the same certification from an engineer. That's the only requirement. So we did get a letter of support from the Strata Council for these 2 additions. Yeah. I guess the applicants are here.
So if I could just ask a question, because it seems that this shouldn't even be. You already must have a setback variance for the structure that's there already.
No,
Oh, no.
no.
Okay. So that's why we're here, because the whole structures.
Yeah, this, I think when they bought the property, it was as it is. So the only part they're changing is the rear side, and they're making a custom made. So if that is being used for sleeping purpose or habitation purpose, then that needs to be CSA certified.
So there is no previous variance for the structure.
No, no, not for the exterior side setback.
So why are we only doing a variance for the part they're adding on? Why would we not?
Because they're not changing this. This is going to be as it is, so it's going to be grandfathered.
Is that correct, Scott?
Well, I'd say it's non-conforming. I wouldn't use the term grandfathered.
Existing non-conforming.
Exists and it's non-conforming. Yeah.
Would it be to the advantage to actually reword this so that it covers the whole thing?
I think so.
That's what I would suggest.
Yeah.
Because existing non-conforming is, anytime they want to do something, they come back and get the same story again. So let's just make it that it's from the 4 feet, which is what, 1.3 meters? 1.2 to what they need at the back end of 2.3, is it? 6 foot 9 inches. What is that? 6'9". That's 2.
1.9 meter. That's the 4 feet. I did ask if they wanted to vary that, but they said that they're not gonna change anything on the main.
But if we're gonna
That's
vote
right.
on one word, we might as well do the whole thing,
Okay, so you,
make it that it's actually what it's supposed to be. That existing non-conforming on a property title is not what you want to see. Rather have that it's allowed to be there.
Yeah, you got a variance for the whole thing.
The whole thing.
It's done.
If we're gonna vary that little bit in the back, we might as well do the whole property.
Yeah, because we bought it.
It doesn't matter. It's just, it makes more sense to do the whole thing. It's done.
Better,
I agree with that.
better for resale too.
Going off the 1.6 yard or side yard, and of course, it's 4 feet into the original trailer, it's been there 12 years.
The utilities were all set up there. It's actually the only one in the resort that is on the corner that isn't.
We
So it was
didn't
just-
realize anything
yeah.
about that 9 feet.
It was just the property developer who just kind of messed that up.
We know who that
And
is.
now we're paying, yeah, and now we're paying
We
for
know
it.
who that is. So, go ahead, Court.
Well, I was just gonna say, as long as it doesn't hold them up, that they can carry on and,
Well, it's not gonna take any longer to do that than to vary the other one. We just change the wording. Can we add the wording on this recommendation now?
so we are varying from 3 meter to 1.2 meter.
Yeah, the 1.2.
Yeah.
At the front and 2.1 at the back, I think, isn't it?
Said 1.9. Or no.
1.9 at the back and the front is 1.2. So do you want me to completely change from 3 meter to 1.2? Within the,
That makes sense.
yeah,
makes sense.
So change the wording of that. That's the recommendation that I'll read. And then we'll recommend that it goes to council and it's done. So that the Planning and Development Committee recommend that the district of Sycamoose issue a development variance permit number 22-108-EP to vary Sycamoose bylaw 101, 1993, section 91, 11B4 setback for individual vehicle space. That the right word? Vehicle space. Okay. Exterior side from 3 meters to 1.2 meters for an addition to the existing park model. Need a mover. Gord. Seconded by Deb. Any more conversation? All in favor? Approved. You're welcome. 5E. The zoning bylaws. We have,
35.
why?
I think Jen wants the room in 35 minutes.
Think that the meeting doesn't start till 2:30.
Really?
That's what's in the slide thing.
About 40 minutes.
Well, I would like to, first off, where are we at with highways?
So I do have a meeting this week with Megan Bolio, who it's been suggested we enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Highways on highway improvements and what they're gonna look like and who's gonna be responsible for them. So I have a meeting this week with Ministry of Transportation on that.
You're having a meeting to who's gonna be responsible for the highway improvements? That would be MOTI, wouldn't it?
Well, if it's, I guess that's where the memorandum of understanding comes in. It's, we have to have understanding of who's gonna be responsible. Yeah. I'm hoping we can show them the bylaw, show them it's essentially a status quo document. We're not adding a bunch of major changes. And hopefully we already are looking at some shared projects with Highway 1 on as far as the bridge goes, and you know, going back all the way to Sycamore Soul School, it's not Rommel Road on a traffic impact study that they've offered to to pay for. There may be some additional work we could request and we could pay for, so that would be kind of a partnership. So really having that conversation with someone in Kamloops as opposed to someone in Salmon Arm and kind of determining what needs to be done.
And have they actually started this highway impact study that was supposed to be the Sickaboo South Far Robert Road from right through? Have they actually done it?
I believe a lot of it probably has already been done with the bridge. So it's how far back you want to go. So it's adding how many meters to this study. I don't know what they started. But yeah, I hope to have a better idea.
Well, because the meeting that was held before Christmas to discuss that. That time, I think at that meeting, they suggested it was like a couple, 3 months. This is what month? June close, isn't it? So are they still talking about our densification of the community to access the highway?
So as part of second readings, this is for Deb and Brian, who maybe didn't participate in the council meeting. So we attached this more for an update that second reading occurred. And this is the document that got second reading. So I've given you each a document. If you go back to the council agenda, you'll see all the referral responses we received. And one was from Ministry of Transportation. And essentially, they asked for 17 traffic impact assessments and 23 covenants on different properties before they would approve the zoning bylaw. So an example would be Meyer Road. There's that little industrial park on Meyer Road. Right now, the use that's permitted in the industrial zone is industrial use. We've added 14, listed 14 industrial uses.
Yeah.
And they've said, well, you're adding those uses to the zone. And our argument is no. We're just defining 14 uses. Right now, it's much more broad. So that's part of the conversation. Another one is, example, what's the development beside Three Boys?
Splashes?
No, the one with the,
Kelly's go-karts.
no.
On the other-
On the Narrows, it's like the built up condos that's built up.
Bear Landing.
Mare Landing. So an example would be, they're like, Mare Landing requires a traffic impact assessment. And we're like, well, it's built out. What could happen? Like, well, if they knocked it all down, the increased density would bring it so they could actually add 100 units.
Really?
Increase the traffic. And we're like, nobody's going to knock that down. The traffic is not going to change. And they've done that with 17 properties essentially in town, saying the density is going to change.
You can say that about anything though.
Well, exactly. So we're trying to get past that, and we're trying to meet the transportation to get past that.
Why don't they address the 15 that took me to get out of my driveway? That's just traffic going through town. It isn't actually stopping anywhere, just going through town.
Does it seem like they have a bee in their bonnet? Or is it like, I'm coming into this late, but does it seem like someone's pissed them off, or like, that seems crazy to me that would be that, because that makes no sense. We're a town of 3,500 people.
We'd like to be a town of 5,000.
Of course, but still, it's only 5,000.
But they're telling us we can't be anything.
But to say that, you not, take down Mare Landing, you'd have to build it back up. Like seems like really
Reaching.
it seems like it's reaching. I don't know.
Go ahead, George.
If you went through each one of their caveats, it's phenomenal where they're coming from. I mean, I can't figure it out how they can, like, they don't have a concern of putting a 6-story building at the best.
Yeah.
But yet Mare Landing's gotta put a caveat on their property, or even for the roundabout. They don't care about the roundabout. They don't care that's a truck stop.
Yeah. No.
Because of the building site. It doesn't need a traffic impact study. but everybody else does.
Yeah, their comment on that is, we don't need to even deal with it.
Yeah, building's too small.
It's not that, it's that they don't have the authority to ask for it. And that is why this is happening with the zoning bylaw. It's because they have the authority now to try to address stuff like that.
I don't understand.
So what would be the impact to I mean, they're asking for stuff. You have another government agency called BC Housing who's going to densify. Build some stuff that people could afford to live in. So you head down that road, that's gonna increase the amount of traffic.
This is a.
And at the same time, they won't give us access. In fact, they're gonna, if they actually have this highway corridor done, I guarantee it will have less access between Sycamore Southpaw Bridge and the Husky. They'll see, but there might be one more in there someplace, because that's not their idea, is to give you anything. So why would they be concerned about access? Like, every town grew. Calgary was a small community when I went to it. It had 250,000 when I first moved there. When I left, there was just over 1 million. That was in a 15 or 18 year span. So it's all, people migrate to communities. This becomes the hub. The road goes through here. That's it, fortunately. We have something. Even Salmon Arm has a Highway 97B, but theirs is almost out of town. But if they keep growing anywhere, it'll probably be in town at some point. So how do we get this? Because the zoning bylaw needs to move ahead. How do we get this done? Like, what's your hope at your meeting this week?
So I think one of the projects that we wanted for a while is a master transportation plan that would say, let's look at all the roads, look at all the intersections. Let's come up with one plan going forward for the future. So I think Ministry of Transportation would also like to see that for Sycamore. So I think if we can get to a point where we're willing to enter into a memorandum of understanding to say, hey, this is the scope of this transportation plan. This is how it's going to be paid for, which X will come from Ministry of Transportation, X will come from the District of Sycamore. I think if we have that memorandum of understanding in place, I think Ministry of Transportation will sign off on the bylaw. So I'm hoping to communicate that and that we can try and move forward.
My understanding is that Councillor McCabe worked on a access corridor 20 years ago when he worked for MOPI. He said there's been 4 of them done. I don't know who's actually seen them besides him, because we haven't seen any of them.
So when you say a master plan, it's all of the roads that tie into the highways. That would be in Sycamore.
So I think what they're looking for is like, where are our key intersections? And what is our 10, 15, 20-year plan about those key intersections? And then wanting to see some things come out of that plan, like perhaps DCCs or funds that are dedicated to future upgrades where we can partner with MOTI. So what I've seen on the island where there's that kind of scenario is MOTI is responsible for infrastructure going their direction. So they pay for the lights and the electricity this way. And then the local government where it's their road coming, they're responsible for maintenance and lights. It's my gesturing.
No, that makes
Okay.
sense, actually. Yeah.
Well, if it's as simple as that, then we should have a traffic light at Silver Sands, crossover.
But they want to see
That's it.
an overall study, right? An overall strategy, like where's your major roads, where's your collector roads, and where are they all going to end up winding up?
So any other, you got something to go over to?
No, I've got lots of comments. I can just give Scott and Sarah my book and they can just or I could review it with them. It's just a whole bunch of stuff, right? Just little things, nothing major.
So are you hopeful that you'll, for our next meeting, have something to discuss that we're gonna move forward? Because right now, us going to third reading and a public hearings is, or can we start the public hearings without the blessings of MOTI?
We could get, like, the bylaw could get third reading. We could have, and we could have the public hearing, we could give third reading, we'd still be waiting for Ministry of Transportation. I would just see if Ministry of Transportation came back with no, and they wanted to see some big changes, then we'd have to have another public hearing. I'm hoping, you know, by next week at this time, I'll have a really good idea of what the next step is, and hopefully we'll have something that, you know, hey, this is a project we need to do to move forward, and if it, you know, I would hate to not be able to work this out, you know, with staff members in the different offices. Like, I don't want this to become,
You know, how long has this been going on? At least we got it triggered. And then we can maybe get some results finally. Good on you, Scott.
Yeah, no, I'm hopeful, so, because we had a conversation at the beginning of the year where we would be able to be adopting this by September. I don't think that's happening unless we start having some of these open houses. So is there any way that we can have the open houses? We don't have to have the third reading, but have some of the open houses to get the public input and then have the, because I mean, maybe the short-term rental thing isn't completed. There was one other thing we were working on that may not be completed as well, but if the essence of it is, because it's a lot of those setbacks and all that stuff is addressed in the new zoning bylaw, so it eliminates the variance law. Somebody got a question? Oh, don't worry about Malcolm. Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, thank you. Just from the galley. I just had a quick comment about highways. I don't think their individual departments are talking to each other because, you know, maybe Jennifer Frazier should be talking to Tara Knight about this, about our zoning bylaw, because, you know, Minister of Transportation with the Broome Bridge project has said that they're going to carry on with our 4-laning study, at least to Rama Crescent. And then now these bylaw folks are telling us that, you know, where's your development going to be and where's your growth going to be? Well, it's going to be where your 4-lane dictates we can grow. So they're trying to put the, you know, the ball back in our court by getting us to do the work we've been trying to ask them to do for 8 years now.
Yeah, exactly. That was my comment earlier, Malcolm. Thanks. I said we've had this conversation a number of times, and you started it because you had the experience. So I don't know. Thanks, Sarah, for the comment that you know they gotta wait until you come up with new. Maybe that's why the zoning bylaws haven't been done since 1993. Right? So. But it would have been easier to do it before these guys got that lazy. Before MOTI got that lazy. Like every department in the government, unfortunately, is looking for somebody else to pay for the stuff they used to do. It makes no difference. It's still coming from one source, taxpayers. Makes absolutely no difference. Who does it? So, because we'll apply for a grant, most likely. We're gonna do a piece, but we'll apply for a grant, so that's taxpayers. It's just ironic. Anyway, no, anything else to do with the zoning bylaws? The short-term rentals, Colleen was gonna make some comments. You were working with her, you guys got those
Yep, we got quite a few minor comments. More so on this, I got lots on the zoning bylaw, but they're all just small stuff.
So when you update the zoning bylaw, are we highlighting the latest updates just so that they're easy to find, so I don't have to read 138 pages?
So short answer is no. Really, like, there haven't been real significant changes outside of the direction with short-term rentals. Other than that, it's really just tightening things up. Councillor Bushell's gone through it page by page, and most of the stuff even he picked up on was minor, where it was, some minor definition changes, or adding use here or taking a use away there, something like that. But yeah, it's really been minor stuff. So yeah,
So we're close.
close.
So can we have it open sometime in the near?
Yep.
If you had a schedule.
Him or PH?
Not a PH.
A PIM, okay.
At one point you did have a schedule. You still have access to that someplace?
I think we've met all everything we've done so far. So I agree. We can. It's interesting, with short-term rentals, that kind of accelerated a lot of public input. Like, we got a lot. And then I've just been hearing now from someone recently who got onto it, read the bylaw, and saw that their property was changing, and they had questions about it. So I think, yeah, it's a good idea. I don't know if it's almost like, if people just see public information meeting on zoning bylaw, they're not interested. But if they see something that's gonna get them really interested, like short-term rentals was one that just, everybody just suddenly was interested. Well, we need people to say, oh, what about my property? But it's hard to draw those people in, because it is kind of a boring subject, right?
Okay, so I do have a comment to do with the map. My only comment is directly across the street. We have a blue public, and that's the school. We have the Yarmaloy property, which is zone C1 and C2.
Yeah.
How did we get, and then we have country residential on 3 other pieces.
MOTI. So from the first round of comments, so there was some recognition of existing zoning there. So the zones on there are reflective of what's there now. So to change them and increase density from what before, MOTI was balking at it. So there were some changes to maintain existing in an effort to try to appease MOTI.
So this was another MOTI, yeah.
We did make some changes, added a little bit of wording, and reduced the density. I think we reduced the density by 2 per hectare on one property, just then would bring a whole bunch of property, or in one zone, then it brought a whole bunch of properties below the threshold they'd be interested in.
So then what happens when you come in with the DP? Like, for example, let's say that on the one that's zoned country residential, which is or the one that's zoned C2, which is gonna be kind of, we're hoping that Silver Sands Road would come through, if it's gonna ever happen. There's a hotel road there. Then what are they gonna do?
So if somebody wanted, so the country residential ones, if you want to do a commercial use, you'd have to rezone those ones. Ministry of Transportation would have to approve that zoning. If someone wanted a development permit on a C2, if it met the zoning bylaw and the efficient need plan, that development permit could be issued. Depending on the square footage, would Ministry of Transportation need to approve it? So I think it's 4,500 square meters. Ministry of Transportation will have to approve, but under that, it would be similar to the end of Main Street, where Ministry of Transportation would say, can't comment.
So the country residential, is that the old MOTI yard?
Those are currently zone small holdings. under our current bylaw, and our equivalent version of that in the new bylaw is called country residential.
Okay. That's country residential that has a commercial operation on it, so that must be a non-conforming existing use.
Yeah.
Just saying. Wow.
You brought that up, Jeff. Is there any way somebody like, if you look at the Capel Street, on the south side of Capel Street, those multifamily lots, those, the yellow ones? Those are residential now, right?
You're talking about these ones?
No, the ones on the water. I guess to say the one, no, the ones even further down over that way. Right there, those ones there. Some of those are some of those are, yeah.
Well,
Dawn's residential.
Yeah, there's a couple that are different. And so just based on comments and guidance, they were given zones
Yeah,
either equivalent to what they have now or per the OCP,
yeah.
right? Because that was a primary goal, was to implement the OCP.
So, sir, would we send a letter to them and say, or just a note to them and say, hey, we're rezoning the property. I mean, this is gonna be an upzone for them, kind of thing. They should be happy. You know, but maybe, unfortunately, maybe like they're an older couple, like the Ellie Thorpes. Maybe they don't want to build multifamily. I don't know. I don't know how do you go about that? Because does that not affect down the road later on when your property is now classified as a multifamily use property?
Doesn't affect taxes, does not affect taxes, no.
It's- Assessment is based on the use of the property, so whatever it's being used for.
Yeah.
The assessment assesses it like that, and then we tax it based on what BC assessment has. Where it's kind of, it would be difficult, it would be, I mean, we could send out something to everybody in town, which we have with short-term rentals with the tax flyers. We've inserted a flyer with the rentals in all of them. But it would be very difficult. Essentially, almost everybody in town's property is going to have a new name because they're all the new zones.
Yeah.
That would be hard to do, although those are the questions I get is, hey, why is my property changing and my next door neighbor's isn't? Each place is either current use, what the OCP or
Someone's actually come to us and talked to us about what they want.
Yeah.
Right, so there was a change. I think we can see, listen, for example, you know, where folks are, you know, they're seeing the public notices that are going out and they're participating. And changes, so right in here, we had a block of all multifamily because of, you know, there's existing multifamily in there. There's a bunch of older properties with a lot of land available, so they're just, anyway, this guy, he still wants his to stay C1 because he's running a short-term rental there. He bought the property for that, so that's that little cabin that was upgraded. Do you know where I'm talking about? Anyway, yeah, so if we get specific feedback and specific requests, and it fits the OCP or it's reflective of their current zoning.
But I thought that we were gonna try and make it that, like, we're not rezoning short-term rent. It's gonna be handled through a business license.
Yeah, so he's, that property in particular is currently C1. It allows hotels, it allows commercial use, so he just needs a business license. We could issue him one today.
But isn't that already all town center commercial? Everything between Finlayson and Main Street, is that already, should it not all be pink? I thought that's what we were doing.
It depends, right? So our town center allows commercial and it also allows high density residential.
Yeah, so why would we not have the entire area that starts out at Main Street on both sides? You got yellow, you got this, why would it not just be town center commercial, all of it? Although it is residential right now today.
Are you asking like for philosophical?
I'm asking why, when we did the zoning, we did not make that all pink. Why did we block out yellow?
Like it is now in our zoning.
As existing there, and there's a bunch of lots that have smaller, older residents on them that are not in great condition. So it was floated to just for this idea. I mean, there's no reason why it can't be commercial.
Like you're saying, like Jeff, like our zoning bylaw is now, if you go to our map right now,
That map right now,
it's all red. Like I think it's,
I'm not sure. I'd have to look again because some of those, they're either C1 commercial
yeah,
or there are one for residential. I'd have to look. However, what an approach like this does is to focus commercial development on Main Street to get that built out first. And potentially provides places where some multifamily housing could go in the town, a population to the town core.
That's the philosophical answer.
That's a philosophical answer, right? So supported by the OCP, but yeah, it could also be C1.
I just wonder what kind of, like, you know, if you start to see development, rail trail becomes reality. The C1 allows commercial lower level at 2 or 3 or 4 stories of residential above it. So make it easier. And at some point, you're gonna have to make available, or we should have, do we have a mechanism for parking?
Or
Like, if we have so many units, you need so much parking stalls, right? And one of the things that was discussed at the housing committee was the idea that we would say you don't have to have any parking. We'll sacrifice parking if you give us this space, which.
right, and our OCP supports that too, right? Like that's specific language in our OCP saying that the district will consider lessening parking requirements to support increased density on sites.
Yeah, that'll bite you in the ass.
And at the same time, the OCP also says that the district will consider creating a zone specifically for public parking, which hasn't been done and land hasn't been designated that way, right?
But it should be.
Yeah, 200 Main Street should be a parking lot.
Sure. And I mean, I would suggest, you know, in updating the OCP that we maybe look at identifying areas where parking would go in terms of future, you know, as developments come up asking for some land dedication or the district in making purchases of land, you know, oh, this lot is up for sale and we've identified it as a good site for parking, public parking.
Yeah, that's huge. It's the parking thing. It's not sexy though. It's not a thing people want to talk about.
Because it's just a waste of space considered by a developer because there's no money in it. It's hot.
yeah, Jeff, like you were saying, like most of it's all red.
Currently.
And would it be easier for the development department? It's all red in our new zoning bylaw, or does it matter?
It wouldn't be easier necessarily for us. I think the idea is keep some of those like higher density residential, like keep them downtown, higher density residential, because the use right now is residential, although it's zoned commercial, but maybe keep it and that would direct anybody in town who's coming to town looking for commercial property, would direct them to Main Street where we want the commercial development.
We want that to happen first there, and then over time it would spread out. So right now, we've got a ton of space and our commercial is spread out all over the place. And nobody's benefiting from the kind of benefits you see when you're all together, right? It's why jewelry stores and malls are clustered together. It's why car sales lots are all clustered together, because there's a benefit in terms of selling something, you have to go far afield. So the same logic works here. And my other case for this, the other reason this ended up this way is that a big chunk of our medium density land use designation is single family, and we're not going to get that back anytime soon. So this area right here, I don't want to name names, but this is all low density. So we're not going to get any medium density development there. This is where it is, and we're losing it. We've lost it. So that's part of the logic behind this. There was a few factors that all made sense. And it is, of course, subject to comment and public hearing.
So there's a lot of building that has to happen first before you need to worry about what that, I think some of those places might be, well, no, there's some of the sales is doing that. But some of them might be ready for the knockdown by the time we get our Main Street filled up and we don't step up the pace a little bit. But our pace, I think, is reliant on MOTI and our access.
That's right.
Because a lot of the guys that are looking for, why do you think that Dairy Queen or whatever he's doing down by the Chevron, he's got access. And I thought that the Chevron was holding off on doing any major improvements because they were waiting to see what was gonna happen to that intersection. You gotta realize that intersection drives you straight in the front door of that property. That's why they wanna do something there. But when MOTI is done, there won't be any access. Unless we can negotiate something with them now, which is something that we've asked for, because that way when we issue a development permit, they don't have to do like they did with the roundabouts, spend $800,000 buying an existing business for dirt to, because that's still my money and your money is doing that, right? We could actually have development that what the future is going to be if we actually knew what it was supposed to be. Any other comments? Malcolm? Good, thanks.
No, I think you said it there, Jeff. Yeah.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, adjournment. You can go for lunch on your own time.
Yeah, I just wanted the district to pay.
Yeah. All right, so recommendation that the Planning and Development Committee meeting for May 25th, 2022 be adjourned, the time being 1:55. Board, Brian, all in favor? Thank you. So I'll see some of you.